Guys, welcome to another episode of the Patriots Table. Today we have Jarrod back with us. After a little hiatus here, so lucky to have the regular team back. Jarrod, the election's just days away here, and this is arguably one of the most important elections, especially in my lifetime, but possibly even in our nation's history. But I think this is a pivotal. It's a turning point on whether we're going to go down a road that we can't necessarily come back from without some pretty traumatic stuff, or if we start going down the path of retribution and getting back on the right track as a country. And I'm actually pretty optimistic. If a lot of Americans think that the last election wasn't really, everybody questions the integrity of it, and me
Right.
among those. So, looking at and I'm not a huge poll person. I've never been. It's always very leaning one way, but there's something to be said when you have polls showing Trump leading. That's just not a thing. So unless they're pulling and honestly, I think it would be pretty brilliant if the polls if they decided to, like, okay, we always make the Democratic candidate look like they're way ahead. Let's try it with the Republican side this time and see if we can get people to be like, oh, he's ahead, he's not gonna get out there. But I just can't help but be optimistic because we never see it like this.
So yeah, the polling data. It's an interesting situation with that because normally, as you said, you'll see them overpoll the left side opposition. That's typically how it's happened in the past, and it's probably happening now. However, there are a few pollsters out there. One, Mr. Sterling, he has actually said, just yesterday, I was watching a thing on Newsmax. He had made a statement that the polls are actually quite bullish in Trump, and they are actually trying to correct the polls to show better for Harris. But every time they correct them, a new polling data comes out, and it puts Trump right back into a razor thin race. And another thing is, I think some of the polls, especially when they're conducted by, mainstream media outlets, we're going to see a level of bias, mainly because they realize that they're in trouble. All the lies they've been spewing since 2015 till now, all the lawfare that they've backed up, even now with the spin on the whole Liz Cheney fiasco from a day or two ago, they have nothing to go on. So in order to keep their ratings, to keep their jobs, we're going to see inflated data that keeps everything in a very tight race. When in reality, I honestly think Donald John Trump is polling ahead if they were completely honest. The momentum, like you said, we're witnessing something with momentum. It's actually tangible. You can feel it. There's such an energy and an excitement going into this election cycle. I voted a couple days ago. My lady and I went down to our local board of elections, did the early voting thing. And even there, the energy was palpable. You could feel there's a change, right? There's something, people are optimistic, there's a happiness, and dare I say, joy. Right, there's an actual authentic joy, and that's, you can see it on the campaign trail. The McDonald's thing, the garbage truck thing, the man's having fun. The man is actually having a blast. And when a campaign, as a former politician myself, when a campaign is actually having fun on the campaign trail, they have internal knowledge, they have internal data. Well, I will always advise caution. There's nothing wrong with being optimistic and cautious, but they're having fun. Their internal polling is probably phenomenal. There is an energy that's almost unparalleled there. So I'm really excited for Tuesday to roll around. I'm sure, much like the Holy Scripture says, there'll be wailing and gnashing of teeth somewhere, but we will see what's going on. I mean, I'm really excited. I think that we are one step closer to taking our beautiful republic back and putting her back on track.
Absolutely. I mean, you talk about just you can everything's electric. There's something to be said about what the MAGA movement is really feeling right now. There's this real sense of unity. And like you said, I mean, you look at the just the sheer numbers that show up at rallies and events. I mean, the amount of people that showed up, just a few days ago at the Tucker Carlson's event where Trump and Bobby Kennedy spoke. I mean, it's always packed. It's always full. And you look at the other side, and they're lying about artists coming on stage, to sing and everything to get people to come out, and then getting booed when
Or
it
in
doesn't work
Beyonce's
out for them.
case, she came out and didn't do anything but talk, which was another wonderful surprise, if you will, from the Harris campaign.
I've heard a lot of people talking about wearing garbage bags over their clothes to voting on Tuesday. Now, I'm not gonna lie. I looked at my wife and I was like, "Man, that is tempting.
Well,
That is just tempting."
Halloween just happened, and kids were coming out just as there were a couple garbage trucks or a couple bags of trash walking down the street. Some straight up Donald John Trumps. There was a little, I would say maybe 1 or 2 year old, still an orange child, standing in line at the coffee shop when I was driving home from work down the road, and it had a little bandage over his ear and a little blonde wig on. Yeah, I mean, people, like I said, the momentum, energy. Um, yeah, I'm not for sure really what happened, but it's almost like a lot of the lie, a lot of the fake information has been exposed, right? People are actually seeing the man for who he is. They're seeing him as a father who loves his family, a granddad who loves his grandkids, a patriot who loves his country. This was a side of the man that the media has tried since 2015 to destroy. Even going everything from just nasty rhetoric all the way up, and it still hasn't stopped him. And there's something to be said for the resolve, not only of him, but of his family, his campaign, and his support.
No, absolutely. And in all seriousness, though, like I can't believe that we have a president that we got. And regardless of which way you swing, if you're on the left, you have to recognize that there is a enormous number of supporters of the MAGA movement. So to come out and call half the country deplorable Nazi garbage, I mean, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Like it's so bad. It's not like you've gone from bashing a presidential candidate to trashing his supporters that you're supposed to be trying to win their vote.
Yeah, but you're not looking at the desperation in them. We've seen this before. Excuse me. When a campaign from that particular party starts to fail, starts to get a little wishy-washy in the polls, we start with the personal insult. Right after the first assassination attempt at Butler County, they were talking, oh, we need to scale back the rhetoric. We're going to get this man killed. That's not what we want. But in a few, well, about 5 weeks later, called Hitler multiple times. We're called Nazis, we're called this, we're called that. But this shouldn't be surprising. This is what they do. They always will attack you personally if they can't get you on policy, if they can't get you on the actual things that matter. They will reduce themselves to ridiculous insults. But to the garbage thing and to the horrible thing, much like Madam Hillary, what was that, 2016? Yeah. She did the deplorable thing. Okay, we owned it. I remember my lovely lady, we were at a social event, a festival of some sort, and we found a badge at the local GOP thing. It said Hungry Deplorable on it, and it had a Trumposaurus Rex on it. And we got that, and it's much like the garbage thing now, and regardless of what the media tries to do to spin it, I mean, even the White House faked the document, right? regardless of what they do. We want on the garbage thing. You want to call us garbage because we support, a patriot? Guess what? I can wear that title just like any other title. You know, we own it. We're already having fun with it, and that's the thing. The campaign of joy has no sense of humor. I think all of their fake facades will crack if they actually had a genuine smile. They don't understand the joy of living, and hey, we can laugh at ourselves. We're not afraid of it because we have nothing to hide.
Well, and in all honesty, it blows my mind because I've never seen a type of unity in owning something as being called, Nazi garbage. I mean, that's normally, you see on social media, people would get all upset, but literally everybody I see is laughing their butts off about this. And that's so unique in showing where we are as a movement and as a country that we just don't care anymore. Like they everybody knows their schemes, everybody knows their tactics, and it's gotten to the point there's an inside joke between me and my wife, when our kids got us on our at our wits end. Once you get a certain point, you you don't get upset or mad anymore. You just start laughing. You just have to laugh about it. And it's like we've, as a country, gotten to the point where we're just going to laugh at this kind of crap. Like it does my heart good, and I think it's amazing. It
You're right.
really is amazing.
You're right. It does. It feels good. It's like almost kind of like the shadow and darkness of doubt and concern have been lifted. We, and we kind of owe the Walls Harris campaign and the Harris Biden administration a bit of gratitude for that as well, because they have proven what true satire is, because that's what this whole administration and campaign has been satire. Here comes Mamala or Kamala or whatever they want to call her with her trained seal running mate. The biggest Chinese ass that sent, Eric Swalwell and his little, honeypot situation, right? Um, he is the most animated goofball I've ever seen. And, they think that this appeals to Midwest dads. Well, I'm a Midwesterner. I'm not a dad. You are a Midwestern dad. It doesn't appeal to us at all. He looks like, it's kind of like if Hank Hill was an actual living person and more animated. There's no appeal there. They have literally proven to us what true comedy is. And it's their campaign and it's their administration. The sad thing is, on the back end of it, we do have global conflict happening. We do have American soldiers needlessly placed in danger zones. Our economy is completely tanked because they wanted to put their foreign friends and allies first over the American people. Well, 3 days from now, with divine providence on our side, as it has been in several times in the past as a republic, we will stop that silliness, get America back on track for American first for the American people. And that's the greatest thing about these two campaigns. There is no hidden anything. You literally see the split. You have America first, I love America, together we will win, or you have, you'll do what I say because I'm a socialist and I will oppress you. It's night and day. Yeah, it's clear. And that it shouldn't be an issue. I'm surprised really that the Harris Balls circus is doing as well as some of the polls saying they are. I can't imagine how any kind of block people can take, especially Walt's series. I mean, I can get where they're coming from with Kamala. I mean, she is the sitting vice president. She's been in the Senate. Granted, she's never had a job outside of the government sector. There's a lot of swamp creatures like that. But Waltz, I don't know what to say. He's kind of like a cartoon character to me. I can't. He comes on the TV. I literally have to go over to the Cartoon Network app or something like that, because at least Sylvester Cat makes more sense than Tim Walz does.
Bluetooth connected.
No, absolutely. I mean, and if you this blows my mind. I don't know if you saw, he had at his rally, and it's one thing just to have people show up at your rally, but to put a certain person on a pedestal, they had a 6-year-old boy who is a cross-dresser and dances for adult men. And they put him up on a pedestal to show that this is our movement. This is what this is about. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Congratulations, you have destroyed an entire, childhood.
Like, seriously, that is. I'm sorry. Where's Child Protective Services on that one? Like, seriously, like that is abuse. That is, I would call that sexual abuse. And to think that that's gonna be, you're right, Tim. You're right. That's gonna be what
Something like
pushes
that.
you over the edge and gets you the support you need. Good job. Like, it blows. Like, you like, I'll give Trump credit for this, because even he, in the later stages of this, campaign, has more focused on campaigning for the swing vote and talking about more issues that even myself, why I might not agree on, I can be like, okay, Trump, I see what you're doing. You're trying to get the swing votes, the people who are on the fence, to be like, okay, I like that. I guess I'll just vote for Trump. But Walls, like, they haven't done anything but make them more radical and make to where the undecided vote just can't, in good conscience, vote for them. It just
You
can't.
know, the the thing with it is, it's amazing to me, is every campaign I've ever seen growing up, especially as an adult, when I start paying attention, like, mid high school or so, or early high school, there's always been substance behind what the candidates are saying, right? There's always been something tangible. This Harris Balls Harris circus is literally a festival of talking points.
Right.
Somebody dropped off a script and said, here are your bullet points. And they literally embody each one of them. There's no, honestly, sometimes I wonder if they're even cognizant of what they're saying. Kind of like the mainstream media, how they get their little teleprompter going. And I think it was an old movie called Bruce Almighty, I think, where they just read, no, I'm sorry, Anchorman, where the one guy just reads what's there. He has no actual ability to organize a thought outside of what the teleprompter tells him to say. That's
Mhm.
exactly what we're saying. That's the narrative. They get their talking points. And I mean, you know, they say Tim Walz is a father. Okay. That's fine. Hopefully loves his family and his family love him and they support one another. But as I'm not a father, and you are, so my question is, how can you literally sit here and subject this 6-year-old child to this cross-dressing thing, knowing that if it was your son, you would never let that happen? How can you push these narratives when you know that they are destructive? How can you, as an American male, and yes, I say American male because there are two genders, there's the masculine and the feminine, both are beautiful in their own regard, and they serve counteracting but equal purposes. As an American male, how can you let that be done to a child? How can you let that be done to a kid? How can you sit there and say, this is our movement? Well, your movement is disgusting and possibly criminal.
Right.
It just, and that takes us back to, the whole concept of masculinity, how they, Kamala's, I guess it's her husband, that Ermhoff guy, Doug Ermhoff, they tried to put him as the modern example of American masculinity. Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I have kids around 6, a little bit older, a little bit younger, right on the dot, right? You cannot tell me that 6-year-old knows, yes, this is what I want to do. Because in my experience, any 6-year-old, anything that gets them attention in a spotlight and makes them feel good, they're all about. Whether it's jumping off a tree and potentially hurting themselves, or putting on a dress and dancing for a bunch of perverted men. So
I mean,
there's a deep,
a 6-year-old
deep
can't even,
perversion with that. That is, like you even said, the legality is questionable on it, and I think that should be considered
Well,
child
I
abuse.
haven't seen the actual feed that you're speaking of. I will look it up after we're finished here, just because you have piqued several levels of curiosity in me, knowing personally my background and things. But a 6-year-old child, be it female or male, they would literally eat pizza and ice cream every single day if you let them. They do not. I mean, granted, I didn't stop that till I was like 33, but still, the fact still remains, they are not in, regardless of how intelligent they are. And honestly, let's be fair, a 6-year-old today is way more advanced than a 6-year-old back in '80, right? But they still don't possess the cognitive ability to make 100% sound decisions, and their decision-making skills are questionable. They are very impressionable. They look to their parents and adults for guidance, and if this is the guidance given them, there's a break. There's something wrong. There is no reason in my mind why a perfectly healthy 6-year-old boy would dress up as a girl and entertain a room full of men. There is something very Epstein-esque about that.
Mm-hmm.
That again, not having witnessed the video or whatever this is personally, I trust your judgment on it until I see it. I'm kind of appalled that something like that is taking place. But then again, these are the same people that have the uh, drag queen hour read-alongs and stuff at libraries. We've seen the videos time and time again of, a little girl being taught to tip a cross-dresser who's dancing in front of her, a giant male dressed up as some kind of almost Jim Henson-esque Muppet woman.
Right.
And, she's being taught how to tip the individual. It's absolutely deplorable. But we can also take that right back to, they always sexualize everything.
Right. Right.
The black movement, for whatever reason, they will demonize you. They will call you Nazis. They will call you fascists. They will sexualize you. I have a friend who's running for office. He went out with his sister for dinner. He's running up here locally in my area for a county post, and he went out with his sister for dinner. It was her birthday. 2 days later in the dispatch, he's having an affair with his mistress. I hope his wife doesn't know. Oops, we put it in the paper. Well, yeah, it's his little sister. And that's what they do. They literally, they see you. What happened to me when I was running for office? We had a little hack situation, and, they will, it's really disgusting. I mean, I can't say anything. What they do to people is absolutely grotesque. And the sad thing is, and I do believe all the mainstream right talk guys, Beck, Clay and Buck, here locally we have Mark Blazer, Mr. Windsor. If they are accusing you of these things, it's because they themselves are doing it. They refer to Donald John Trump as Hitler and a fascist. Let's look at the policies of the Harris-Walz administration that would be. Trump isn't saying anything about censoring his enemies or doing this. We will have the Ministry of Truth over here that will put you in prison if you even blink when you're not supposed to. The whole thing is actually so gross. I forget sometimes that I'm a gentleman and want to say things that I ought not. And it's, thank God, I'm really convinced that on Tuesday a lot of this will be put to bed, because I'm fearful that if any shenanigans happen, or how somehow Don does not win this, there's going to be a nation in complete duress. I don't know. I don't know if the United States as a republic could survive the opposing administration. I really don't think we could.
Yeah, I seriously question that too. I mean, it, uh, even the current administration, and this can close in the next thing I wanted to hit on. We had several states in the country that got absolutely devastated by natural disasters this year. You know, the hurricanes and states that weren't prepared for it. You know, like North Carolina was absolutely devastated, and you see the complete and utter failure of federal and local government to do anything. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of people just essentially missing or dead with nothing being done. It's trying to the parents trying to find their children, children trying to find their parents, and it was so horrific. And you know what was one of the first things we did? All right, well, we're gonna go send billions of dollars overseas, and FEMA's gonna show up and block humanitarian aid for the people, and you know, acted like it was a quarantine zone. I mean, there's literally videos, dozens, dare I say, hundreds of videos online of them compensating food, water, medical supplies from Americans who took their own time to go
I have
there to help
firsthand
these
knowledge.
people, and just like what was going on with this?
So I have firsthand knowledge. I was on the phone with somebody very close to me who was taking stuff down there that got held up by allegedly, and I say allegedly as it wasn't there, but I trust them, was held up by FEMA representatives, and they needed to do a vehicle inspection, and then they confiscated things from his vehicle that, you know, there were provisions being taken down to North Carolina. Again, I was not there for the event, but that is what is reported. We have seen it on video. My question is, you know, where's all the money? FEMA gets grant money and money put into their uh, agency every year. Where did it go? Did it really go to the elites? Okay, if so, be honest. Let's fix this. Oh, by the way, you're fired. Yes, but we need to fix it. You know, where's all the money that FEMA they back up money? They have one primary purpose. Their purpose is to, in time of disaster, be there to help alleviate distress on the local community, provide life-saving shelter, aid, food, water. I mean, they have, you know, emergency service functions like ESF 6 and 7, right? One is mass care, one is logistics. How do we get stuff there? How do we facilitate a recovery or the beginnings of a recovery? They're there to augment the local forces and the local, you know, emergency EMAs. This is one area that I'm actually very familiar with and very skilled in, you know, is, you know, emergency management, the National Incident Management System, NIMS, as well as the Military Emergency Management System, MEMS. Those work in correlation through, you know, FEMA, which is federally mandated to perform these functions. Why didn't they? And then, of course, when you question this, you are then the problem. You know, that's the whole left narrative. We're always the problem. Whenever we have a question or we disagree, we're fascist Nazis. We're the problem. We're causing the issue. We made the hurricane happen, right? Okay, whatever. Bullcrap. So, where are they? They use our tax dollars. Where's the money? Why weren't you there helping save lives, helping get people back on their feet? Why did it fall to Joe Schmo down the road? And God bless those Joe Schmoes and Molly Moes, because if it wasn't for the local people having true American concern for their neighbors, this would have been even worse than it is. And yes, it could have been much worse. Unfortunately, it was already devastating across the entire platform. Across the entire area, it was devastating. But it could have even been worse. Those men and women that stood up to help their neighbor when they themselves are going through it, oh my gosh, that nothing says, hey, we're Americans than that. That is amazing. They literally, one of the guys, the individual that I personally know that went down there, was talking to, his house got washed away. You know, fortunately, he and the kids and the dog were okay, and the wife was okay. So the first thing that they did is they went out to try to help people get out of the debris, start rallying what resources they could all combine to get through a couple nights until help came. Out of concern that, hey, what are we going to do for a house? Hey, there's people in trouble, let's help. That's the American spirit, and that's what they don't like. They, honestly, it feels like the lack of response is almost orchestrated. I'm not going to say that it is, but it has a feel that, hey, if we have this federal agency, it's actually the Federal Emergency Management Agency, authority. It's not used when we have a major emergency, because that would make too much sense.
Well, I think it goes along the same things that they tried to do with COVID, right? If people are in fear and need help, they're willing to give up some of their freedoms and their rights. But I mean, then you ask where the money went. Gosh, everything pointed to me is we're shelling it overseas. I mean, the same week they give what was $150 relief to the
That was
people that
one
said,
of the biggest insults I've
so
ever heard.
$750, but within 24 hours of them saying we're giving these people $750 life-saving dollars, and thanks to Bidenomics, that 750 is, I mean,
It's like 345.
isn't nearly that much anymore. But within the same 24-hour period, we're sending $8 billion to Israel. We're sending hundreds of millions more over to Ukraine. Like, what the biggest slap in the face to the American people? I mean, if that doesn't tell you where our government's priorities are, because how this whole thing was supposed to be set up, right, was the government is a necessary evil to keep law and order and serve and protect the people, right? So you have that part of it, and then we're spending all this money in taxes, and what do? We don't even we don't even protect. We don't even do any of it. It's so bad. It is so bad.
It's nauseating. I mean, just like everything else about this administration, you get to the point to where, on one side, yeah, we can laugh at the campaigns, we can laugh at their ridiculous narrative, but the terrible meat and potatoes on the back end of it, it's kind of like green eggs and ham, really. Nobody wants to touch it. It's gross, it's disgusting, it's nauseating. And that's what it is. The way that they mismanage funds, and we know that they're not going to be honest with anything. But outside of the complete mismanagement, that fact that everybody but Americans come first in their mind, the over-sexualization of our children, all of this stuff, yeah, it's horrible. Yeah, again, it's nauseating. It leads me to a place where I will be a little less Christian if I think on it too much in polite society. But the insult to this injury is the lie. And we saw it with the garbage statement from Biden, because, when his senility, he accidentally truths every now and again. We see it with the Liz Cheney thing, the fake narrative that they're creating with that. And it's basically, you're not seeing what you're seeing. You're not hearing what you're hearing. We're not doing what that we're doing, but we're going, as long as we tell you we're not doing it, we're not doing it, right?
Right.
And that's the biggest slap in the face, is that I think that's why we feel the joy that we were discussing earlier, is because we've lifted the wall out of our eyes so far that we can actually now go toe to toe with them, do battle with them, and say, no, this is exactly what you're doing, and you're wrong. And this is the first time in, I dare say, my entire lifetime and being involved in, political narrative and paying attention, that we've had that platform. The right, the conservatives, the people who love the Constitution typically are reactionary and very quiet. We don't typically stand on a pedestal. We very seldom have the high ground. We're typically even or low ground, right?
Right.
However, going into this, we have not only the moral high ground, we have the constitutional high ground, the legal high ground. And, there was a thing I was reading on Hillsdale newsletter, that their enrollment for the Constitution 101 course, that they have a series of free courses. Anybody listening, go on over there. They have a wonderful series of free courses. They really are interesting things, right? They're all online. But their enrollment for the Constitution 101 and 102 is through the roof as of, like, what was it, like June or July? they like almost doubled their enrollment for it because people are paying attention. They're hearing these things be kicked around by media. It's unconstitutional. It's this, this, this. Well, what does the Constitution actually say? So they're actually not trusting anybody. They're going to go and look at it themselves, and that's exactly what needs to happen. You have to educate yourself. Take all the information in, but, trust but verify. And we're seeing that happen. And I think that's a big cause for the joy and the happiness that we were discussing. So how do we fix the FEMA situation? Well, it starts with Tuesday, getting a president and an administration in there that realizes things aren't right. He was talking about putting Elon Musk in charge of thinning out the bureaucracy. Could you imagine the amount of purgation that will happen? Like, I'll tell you what, you want to talk about somebody who's good and got frothed up and ticked off is that man.
Right.
When you hear him talk about his son that was a victim of the false narrative of transgenderism and how he was kind of kept out of the loop because of certain laws. The man, and dare I say, the man is pissed, and in a very righteous way. They're trying to get him on the lawfare for his $1 million giveaway. Think it's going to fail. And, can you imagine, though, if Trump actually puts him in something like that, how much money the nation will save for the American people by purging the overly thick bureaucracy that we have?
Oh, yeah.
But it's going to start there. Fixing FEMA is going to start there. First and foremost, again, we here at Table Talk, we would be extremely remiss if we did not continuously give great shout-outs and accolades to the brave men and women in the impact zones of these terrible events that are putting on their boots and helping their fellow neighbors. For all the people that actually went, we had people coming in from California to help, from Northern California, from all over. These people are amazing, and they are the reason America is exceptional.
Absolutely. I'm 100% on that. I mean, I think we've seen something that we've never seen in our lifetime. You have Bobby Kennedy, Trump, you have, Elon Musk. You have these people that are, and then I would even say the big tool that the left uses, they're not an expert. I always hear, well, where's your degree? Did you go to school? No, you don't have to. I think that's one of the biggest downfalls to modern society, especially in our country, is no, you don't have to be an expert or go to college to have an educated opinion on something. The fact that we have almost gone towards, well, we don't know how to think for ourselves, so we'll get the expert's opinion on it, has been one of the biggest detriments to this country because people do not have the critical thinking skills that they should anymore. And I think you're seeing a surge of people who are sick and tired of being told what to think. Well, I know it doesn't make sense, but you're too stupid, so just trust us and go along with it. You know what I mean? Like that's literally what it seems like I'm hearing every day. Whether it's CNN or just even people on social media. Well, where's your medical degree? Why do I need a medical degree to know that something's poison or not? Like, could common sense go out the window? Does a degree dictate whether or not what common sense is actually a thing
Yeah,
anymore?
you don't need to go to the fire academy to know if I touch a hot pan, it's going to burn me.
Right.
Well, that was one of the biggest falsehoods. And, I believe, I'm not too much into the conspiracy thing, but I can kind of line things up fairly well. Not the smartest cookie in the jar, but I did make it out of the package into the jar. So I believe that some of it was part of an indoctrination kind of concept, because if you remember, you might be too young. I mean, I'm the old guy here, 42 as of the 31st, right? So I remember the big college push. You need to go to college. You need to get into college. You need to get into college. I come from a blue-collar family. Granddad worked as a plastic mold engineer at Old Borden's Plastics in Columbus, Ohio. We're a blue-collar family, 100%. And, college was a great thing. I was fortunate that my time in college, I went to private colleges, well, mainly Catholic colleges. So a lot of the curriculum was based off of, that outlook, right? So it wasn't a lot of the liberal mumbo jumbo, but most of these state colleges, man, I mean, let's look at the professors, these professors, these tenured professors running around, taking part in every bizarre left protest, encouraging students, and actually, punishing those who don't take part into what they think is needing to be done. College isn't a place of education. It's not a place of critical thinking anymore. There are a few like Hillsdale, Franciscan U, and Steubenville, Ohio. There are some out there, but the main colleges, they're just breeding grounds of some of the worst socialist tripe that's out there anymore. And that's why, I have a young man in my life. Love him to death. He's not really my nephew, but he should be. He's actually a brilliant, brilliant young man, 17 years of age, and he's looking to go to a trade school to learn the trades. And I'm just flabbergasted because he's got such a great mind, and he's going to run the gambit on that. And it's a great life, when you look at your skill sets, and the lack of debt that you'll get into. And I'll tell you, as a tradesman myself, some of these positions, they start off in the 80s and 90s, and that's non-union. You don't have to, contrary to belief, to be a respectable tradesman. You don't have to link up with the union. But no, I'm extremely excited for him as he starts that chapter of his life, and I wish more kids his age would look into that because, he's woke, shall we say, to the fact that the woke doesn't work. Right? He's woke enough
Right.
in the right way to know, hey, in some of these places that we're going to be fed the line of crap that I know is wrong. I don't want that. I want something better. And more power to him. He's a great kid, and I pray for him daily that it works out the way he's hoping and we're hoping for him. And college does not need to happen. Not everybody needs to go to college. There are some, okay, when you're talking your lawyers, sure, they need to know the law. Now, I mean, let's be honest, law schools,
Lawyers, doctors,
and in that same don't.
astronauts, physicists, stuff
Right,
like
right.
that.
But when you're dealing with, things that go boom and people's livelihoods, you need
Right.
to have, there are very technical skills you need to learn, and that college is the place for that. But not everybody's meant for it, and you can have a happy, great life without it. And my biggest concern with colleges in general, as mentioned, is the indoctrination and the liberalization and socialism that is preached from these professors. Just because these kids graduated high school, some of them, with great GPAs, 4.0 plus, right? They are still impressionable. These kids are 17, 18 years of age. They haven't even started adulting yet. Okay. So they are forming opinions. They're trying to interact and build their social skills, and that's one thing the left has always been good at. Getting them when they're soft and mushy and putting those ideas in there. So they grow up to be, that generation that is completely apathetic to the Constitution and just wants, the rainbows and, popsicle kind of life. When hard times come, they don't know how to handle
No,
it.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, that's why there's such an attack on the school system, and because like you said, it's indoctrination camps, and they're trying to sexualize our children. I mean, you literally have schools installing litter boxes for children who thinks they're cats. You have teachers playing along with this, teachers going and using litter boxes in schools because they feel like they're a cat. And like, what are you seriously teaching that kid that your own perception, your own feelings is dictating reality when that's not the case? It's actually the very opposite. Reality is a very humbling thing because it'll show you that it doesn't give a crap about your feelings. The world doesn't give a crap about your feelings. It'll come and hit you like a ton of bricks. So what are we doing? We're teaching children from a young age that, hey, it doesn't matter what the world says, whatever you are feeling, It's what's true. And then we wonder why there's so many kids on depression, taking depression medication. We've brought them up to think that their whole world revolves around their feelings. And then when reality comes and smacks them in the face, then we start telling them, well, that's because the big
Yeah.
bad
So
orange man hates you and wants you, and no society doesn't want to accept you. And then, I mean, it starts from such a young age that we're literally setting these kids up to be um, drug addicts, alcoholics, potential suicide victims, uh, and just have a horrible life based off the fact that,
well, they're
hey, you can do whatever you want,
well
and there's
that
no
and they're
repercussion.
almost in a way, we've talked a couple of times about you know how they intentionally kind of engineer thought process of the children, right? Which school kind of does in general. You kind of start, well, I need to look at this mathematically or scientifically, the basic norm. But so it's almost like in some cases, it feels like they want to keep them intentionally stupid, right? And the problem is that, well, Senator Kennedy said it best. Life is hard, but it's harder when you're stupid. They don't look at it that way. They don't teach them how to figure things out. They don't teach them how to handle situations. It's I mean, like this, the safe room where you're getting overworked, you go and you sit in darkness and silence for a minute. What is that? We got overworked. We were told to suck it up and move on with it, right? And there is a concern for the well-being of the younger generations as they move up into adulthood and the ability to handle being an adult, being in a world, like you pointed out, that doesn't give a crap about your feelings, that it's based on business, it's based on profit, profit and loss, and you constantly having to be in this race to be better each day at your profession in order to succeed and eventually hopefully retire. You know,
Right, right.
they're just ill-equipped for it, and that is a direct result of an over-politicized education form. And well, that we're not. We'll save the teacher union discussion for a later date.
We could do a majority of an episode on one of those, but no, I mean, honestly, I do want to in future episodes talk about the actual effect of the current school system, teachers union, and stuff on what we're seeing, what society is blaming as, people not having acceptance and things of that nature. But what's the real root cause of this humongous spike in, you know, uh, depression, suicide, um, transgenderism, all this stuff, I believe personally stems from a very simple root cause that's just not really talked about. So I definitely want to talk about that in the future. But um, we're about running out of time, and I hope and pray our next episode is with ear to ear smiles from the results from Tuesday.
That is one thing we should touch on. I want to touch on just in the waning minutes here. Um, is the encouragement of us keeping heart. If this does not go the way we feel that it's going to go, we need people to realize that we need to fight it, but we need to fight it in the right way. In our actions being honorable and American. They will try to bait us, whether we win or lose, they will try to bait us into violence, into anger. Yeah, we'll be upset, but we will mind our manners. Why? Because we're Americans. That's what we do. We will fight the high ground. I do wildly suspect that there will be, um, if Donald wins especially, there will be public civil discord, if you will. Let's not, and I think our listening base are phenomenal people. That won't be a problem for them, but for the masses, we need to make sure that our neighbors aren't getting caught up in this. need to make sure that we ourselves are being the good guys. Let them show themselves to be who they are. We just have to wake up and America hard every day. That's all we got to do.
Absolutely. And I will encourage people to get out and vote.
Absolutely.
Get out and vote. You can't. I'm a firm believer is if you're not voting, you have no right to complain about the state of the country. This is, like we said at the beginning of the episode. I think this is the most important election of our lifetime, and this is going to be
Definitely one that's going to
pivotal
decide whether we
moment
stay
and
a
a
republic or
defining
become a
moment in
socialism.
our country's future for sure. So, yeah, get out, whether you vote early or vote on Tuesday. Make sure get out there and vote. Don't let your employer tell you can't vote. That's also not legal. They have to carve out time for you to go out and exercise your rights. So, but thank you all for joining today, and we will see you guys on the next episode.